Hi, I'm Jim Weaver from Edmond, Oklahoma, and this is actually the 20th year that I've tooled leather. And so I began doing this as a project with my son when he was 13, and he wanted to learn some leather tooling, and so we went to free classes at the Tandy Leather Shop. And so as time went on, I kind of expanded from the traditional kind of leather craft or Western style leather craft into more variable and varied subjects. And about 6 years ago, I had the idea of trying to make block prints from the leather pieces. And so we visited a printer and who got very excited about this idea of trying to see what we could produce from these leather pieces. And after learning a little bit, I started this work, which I have pieces out here I have 15 pieces out here that cover the period probably of about the whole 6 years that we've done this. And so you basically you tool the leather. Turns out you have to do things a little bit differently than if you're making a typical leather item. The tooling has to be adjusted, and then when you have that done, you roll ink onto it, you get the right amount of ink, you get the paper, and you run it through a press. And you can then make multiple copies of the leather pieces. And in fact, I think that it goes back to what engravers did in Europe in the 17th century. They would make an engraving, and then they want to preserve a record of it somehow. And so they would put ink on their metal engraved pieces and run them through a press. And it's really the same kind of process, that it's just taking and reproducing the work on a piece of paper. Which brings to mind the fact that this was done in Japan before cameras. People would go out fishing and they would take and get the fish they had caught and roll ink on the side of them and then print them on paper. And so you'd have this image of the fish. And so it's really the same idea, but with a different application. And I think the thing that makes it interesting is that we have a whole set of tools for tooling leather that make unique marks, and they differ from what you might do on a wood block, carving a wood block. So we get this mirror image of the textures that come from the tools for leather craft. So that's where it's at. The pieces on display are all monochrome, either black and white or blue and white. And where I'm going in the next year or so is to really get to the point where I can do prints in multiple colors, which is kind of a step up in difficulty. So that's where I'm going with it.